That's the same thing I did last week. I forgot to unmute my mic. Man, oh man. Good morning, Galaxians, and welcome to a special edition of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast live. I am super excited today to have a special guest. Please give a warm Galaxian welcome to David Lee, Vice President of Marketing for Mercari. David, welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be here. And thank you for the reminder to unmute my mic just now.
That's the second week in a row I've done that. I go to get a drink of water and then I blow the intro. So, just a quick thank you. We talked a little bit about it offline, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate your willingness to come out here and kind of meet sellers on our turf, as it were. We all kind of appreciate the opens and the fests and all the other kind of controlled environments that the platforms do for us to share with us what's going on there. But this is a different kind of format where you're willing to come out and kind of unscripted take questions from us. So I really appreciate that.
Well, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here, and this is integral to the work that I do for our community, for our marketplace. I think that sellers are very they're fantastic business people. They're building fantastic businesses on these marketplaces. And one of the things in the private conversations that I've heard time and time again is that sellers want to be heard. And sometimes I won't have the answers. But at minimum, making sure that sellers have the opportunity to be heard. And I take those away where I don't have an answer, and I work together with my team, my colleagues, to get to a better place for all of us in this marketplace.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we don't have too many of those today, but tell us a little bit about yourself, a quick elevator pitch, how you came to be at Mercari, and just describe for us a little bit what your role is within the organization.
Sure. So I started my first marketplace venture as a teenager. I was 13 years old. We started an e-barter exchange marketplace for larger companies to trade with each other. That company was acquired in 1998 by a NASDAQ listed company. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So most recently, I started a creative automation company in ad tech, marketing technology. That was a company I ran for 15 years, founded in South Korea, but most of our customers were here in the United States. And that company, we recently closed the acquisition for that company. Um, Very fortunate to have worked with some fantastic colleagues there, doing some interesting and innovative work. Um, but through that process, Mercari is one of the companies that I'd gotten to know, um, and the executives here as well. I've had a chance to get to know a few of them, uh, and I've always been intrigued by the idea of the circular economy. So when the opportunity arose to join the Mercari team, I leapt at the opportunity.
And kind of what is, as the vice president of marketing broadly, what is your individual goal for the company?
So I would like to see Mercari continue along its current path of enabling the circular economy here in the U.S. market, but also globally is something that our company has made it clear we have global ambitions. The company is already just a tremendous uh, presence in the day-to-day lives of many people in Japan, uh, where there's just this fantastic culture of buying and selling, which I think is so important because when we think about the things that we're obsessed about, um, and so lately I've been obsessing over pizza, and I've been buying things related to making pizza. I'm still terrible at it, according to my daughter, uh, but sometimes I'm going to find that there are different versions of the item. Maybe the pizza peel that I'm using. Maybe I want to get a different version of it. But I've already put in some work and thought into choosing that. So I think that that pizza peel is something that I can then turn around and sell in the circular economy, and folks can know, hey, David has thought about which pizza peel to buy, or maybe I move on from that passion. So my goal here is to make the circular economy just a normal part of everyday life here in America. And I'm really excited to see that there's already a vibrant and thriving community of folks that really care a lot about the circular economy. There were some college students that we do some work with, um, who recently told one of my colleagues that their goal was to have 100% of their wardrobe thrifted.
Sure.
And it's this mindset of quality pieces introducing, especially where we have our obsessions. So if we're style obsessed, if we're book obsessed, if we're finding those unique, interesting pieces, I think that's something that we're starting to value a lot more. And I just like to accelerate that. So I view that to be my role here at Mercari, and it just really aligns with something that I believe in to be really good for us here in America.
Right. So one of the things I talk about a lot on this show is for individual sellers, the need to kind of define what success looks like for you, because success for me may look totally different than from somebody else. So broadly, what does Mercari define as success? Where would you see yourself? Where would you see the company fitting in amongst all of these platforms that are in that circular economy that you're talking about?
So rather than looking at the competitors, I think that my focus is coming back to the kind of platform that we want to be, the role that we want to play in the lives of the people who are on both sides of the circular economy, both on the demand side, the supply side, buying and selling. Um, how do we drive value for them, and who are these people? That's where I tend to spend more of my time versus looking at the competitors. Uh, the, Having come from that startup environment, um, there's a fairly often attributed quote about if you're looking at your competitors, you're going to end up um, looking like the rear side of your competitors. So
Right.
I think it's important to focus on our customers and our business versus the competitive landscape.
So, what kind of things is Mercari doing or planning to do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? So, obviously, you have to have some idea of what the competition is doing in order to do that. So, clearly you are looking at them, even if you're not trying to compare yourself to them. But what makes Mercari different than eBay, for instance?
So what makes Mercari special is the community itself. And for sellers in particular, I think what's compelling is the particular blend, the community of buyers in Mercari, who are very different from the community of buyers on a number of other platforms. I think that the buyers in Mercari, something that I've observed, uh, is that they are typically quite obsessed about that obsession is something that fuels just ongoing engagement with the sellers who are also uh, trading in or doing business in an area of obsession. I mean, I look at your background behind you, the books, and I don't know that that was something that was deliberate.
Oh, it
I know
was.
that. Yep. I look at the things that you're posting about on Instagram. The 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 fact that you're selling, you're doing business or trading in an area of obsession. And forgive me if I'm assuming too much here, but it seems that books are an area of obsession for you.
Right.
That resonates, and that comes through loud and clear to buyers. And when buyers are buying from you, I think that they get that. So I would say that for sellers, what really differentiates Mercari is um, uh, how our buyers are book obsessed on Mercari, how our buyers are anime obsessed on Mercari, how our buyers are style obsessed on Mercari, and it's an opportunity for the buyer community to move fluidly between these obsessions because they change over the course of our lives, and some of them stick with us over the course of our lives. Uh, but because we're a horizontal marketplace that covers a wide variety of these obsessions, it just provides this very safe and compelling environment for our buyer community to just dive deep into their area of obsession, and that bleeds over into the selling experience as well. Because if you're buying in areas of obsession, you tend to be somebody who will also be selling in areas of obsession. Um, and and then I think we end up getting this very virtuous cycle, going back to that circular economy concept, that feeds itself, and I see that happening day in day out at Mercari. So I think that's what sets us apart. The audience of buyers that we have for our sellers, and likewise the audience of sellers that we have for our buyers.
And what kind of things are you doing to kind of promote that to an audience who may not know who Mercari is? I know you've run some TV advertising in the past. You've done some other promotions. What kind of things are you looking for as we get ready to go into Q4, for instance? Are we going to see a fairly intensive marketing push to highlight that kind of obsession buyer and seller? What are the plans there?
Yeah, I'll give you guys a preview of what we're planning. A big campaign that we're preparing is absolutely centered around the idea of obsessions. Obsessed on Mercari, so anime obsessed on Mercari, book obsessed on Mercari. These very interesting areas that we're seeing strong community and strong transaction volume, which is ultimately, uh, as a seller, as a buyer, as Mercari the platform, this triangle, this very solid foundation of these three stakeholders. All three of us want greater transaction volume. We're already in this place where marketplace wide, we're driving 14% more profit per transaction for our sellers, which from the folks that I've been speaking with, they've been very excited about that increased profit. Um, but now it's really about driving additional demand, and that's a big part of my job. It's central to the work that I do at Mercari. So this upcoming campaign, we're very excited about. It builds on this fun, because obsessions, the fun side of obsessions, very, we're passionate about going deep into, in my case, as I mentioned earlier, making pizza these days for now terribly. It's that we want to celebrate. So we started with one of the largest campaigns ever. And we've done some compelling marketing campaigns over the course of Mercari's history here in the U.S., but I'm really excited about in New York City. Right now, we have one of our largest marketing campaigns ever. We've taken over all of Grand Central Station, the MTA, the subway station there. It's a gorgeous station. So all of the printed media ad spots are Mercari. Very beautiful, loud, colorful, vibrant. To get the brand out there, we've taken over the shuttle, that a full wrap of the exterior, the interior of the shuttle that runs between Times Square and Grand Central. Um, so it really gets the brand out there, which drives more demand for our
Right.
sellers in areas that are really tapping into the obsessions of the buyers in one of the biggest cities in the world.
Right. So let's talk about some of the changes at Mercari. You kind of alluded to it with the increased profit margin, but over the last 8 months or so, Mercari's gone through some pretty breathtaking changes. You had the elimination of seller fees, the transfer of those fees to buyers. You did have, unfortunately, back in the spring, a pretty major layoff that I want to talk about a little bit. And then the last big thing was this integration of the Japanese marketplace merchandise. Let's start with that one because I think that's the easiest one. Walk me through what the thought process was behind that. And I know it's fairly new, but what kind of results are you seeing from that? I'm sure you're aware there's been some pushback from both buyers and sellers that the site has become a little more cluttered. The marketing has been pretty aggressive, and some people have felt like it's a little too much on the site and it's distracting. Anecdotally, some sellers are saying that since that was introduced, they've seen their individual sales drop off. So let's address that, kind of what the thought process was behind bringing that stuff on board and what kind of results you're seeing.
And whenever there's a big change, there's an adjustment period that takes place. I'll start by emphasizing that the why, talking about the why for bringing the inventory from Japan over. Um, I think it's critical for us to differentiate on inventory because that connects to people's obsessions as buyers and sellers both. Um, I think that there is certainly a segment of the U.S. buyer, uh, the U.S. buy side, that highly covets or just loves and really we talked about geeking out or obsessing over items that are typically only available in Japan. For me, it's these mosquito patches. When I get a mosquito bite, it's this one Japan brand of it's got this cartoon character on it. You put it on the mosquito bite and boom, doesn't itch anymore. Um, but this passionate group of buyers uh, that loves those items and comes back time and time again. Uh, that's something that drives increased demand for our U.S. Seller inventory. Because what we're seeing is, there is a degree of overlap, but there's a much bigger kind of net new uh,
Right.
set of inventory that's available from Japan here in the US now. So yes, there's a little bit of overlap, but I don't think it's a tremendous amount of overlap because they're just very different types of inventory that are generally available. And there are definitely, it varies from seller to seller.
Sure.
Um, Now, by having more compelling inventory, and I'm not saying that Japan inventory is more compelling than US inventory. I'm saying that there's
Quantity
compelling
is more of
inventory
it.
and there's like quantity wise,
Yes.
diversity wise, there's more of it. We're just appealing to a broader set of buyers and we're giving more buyers a reason to come back over and over and over again. And I believe that is something that is fundamental to our work in service of sellers, buyers, and us ourselves as a marketplace. So it's good for all of us. So we've seen that play out where people buying items from Japan tend to be very passionate and I use the word obsessed quite a bit, but in a fun way, obsessed with the things that they're buying, and they come back time and time again. So I think that that's a healthy development for our marketplace.
So I know that was one of the rationales behind the elimination of selling fees back in the spring was that you wanted to attract more sellers and by extension more merchandise and of course then by extension increase gross merchandise volume. And I know in the last quarterly report it didn't seem like that had that impact. Walk me through that process and how that decision came to be made with moving those fees was a huge step. And now you've seen Depop, for instance, has kind of sort of followed suit. They've moved seller fees over to a buyer service fee, but left the transaction fee with the buyer. So they've kind of split the baby a little bit. But walk me through what that conversation looked like strategically and why you decided that that was the right way for Mercari to go.
Well, it definitely starts with like the inventory is such an important part of the story. It is the enabler for having a, for being a destination, an important destination, a frequent destination for buyers to come back time and time again. So the inventory matters a lot because it is something that serves the interests of our buyers and sellers. Um, so decreasing the barrier for sellers to list is and simplifying that is something that I view to be good for the marketplace in the long run. I think that it's still very early to tell. I think that any big change requires an integration period, an adjustment period. I think that some of our top sellers were very quick to make some adjustments. Um, and that speaks to how many of our sellers are successful as sellers because they are savvy business people. In addition to being people that are obsessed over the obsessed with a particular area or a few different areas and very knowledgeable about those areas and just committed to finding interesting inventory, like some of the obscure titles that you find,
Right.
that speaks to your passions. So I think that we need more time for that to play out, for the entire marketplace to adjust. Um, but certainly, we're seeing that this is playing out well for sellers who are seeing that 14% on average increase to their profit on each transaction, which really frees up sellers to be a lot more flexible.
Right. To that
I
point,
spoke with,
do you
yeah.
have any kind of an idea of the percentage of sellers who have availed themselves of reducing their price by 10%? Because I'm not one that has done that, and that banner continues to pop up in my app. Seller fees are going away, reduce prices 10% to match. Do you have any idea of how many sellers, percentage wise, took advantage of that option to discount their pricing rather than just try to windfall take all that profit?
So I don't have the percentage to share with you right now, unfortunately, but I can speak to how important it is that that decision to adjust the price is something that has to take place with the seller. It's not something that can be mandated platform wide. And this is one of the reasons why there's a bit of an adjustment period, right? Sellers are figuring out what's the right play for them, what's the right strategy for them. And I think that the sellers are absolutely the right people to make that decision. We've observed a couple of strategies unfolding. One is a wait and see approach. Another is an approach of yes, decreasing the prices to adjust for this shift in where the fees are paid. But really, there always has been that fee. Used to just be baked into the seller price. So buyers have always been paying a fee, and the buyers are always paying a fee on any marketplace where there's a fee imposed somewhere in the transaction, in that entire value chain. It's there. It's just whether it's transparent or not is, I think, the big defining factor here.
I'm not sure
Um,
sellers would agree with that take on that, that buyers have been paying that fee. I mean, the market is what the market, if I got a $20 book, it's worth $20. And that fee is part of my cost of doing business. I don't think buyers, probably by and large, think they're paying that fee. I think they, at some level, understand that sellers have certain costs, be they a percentage to the platform or rent or payroll, whether it's, Best Buy or Walmart or somebody selling on one of these platforms. So I'm not sure I would agree with that notion that that was somehow an opaque fee to the buyers. That may be semantics, but I think a lot of sellers would take some umbrage at the idea that their buyers were paying that fee.
Ultimately, there's the total price to the buyer, and that matters to buyers. And whether that's total price to the buyer is comprised of fees that are broken out, or parts of the profit margin or the cost of goods sold that are baked into the ultimate price to the buyer. Um, Ultimately, there is a price that's paid by the buyer, and I think that that's an important number for buyers. Um,
Let me
what
ask
I've
you
observed.
to follow on to that. Initially, when this change was made, that when that fee was moved over, it was not shown to the buyer until they got to the shopping cart, which led to, by Mercari's own admission, a lot of abandoned cart issues. And to your credit, you did finally move that to a more transparent place on the listing. So walk me through how that decision was made.
So our team is always looking for the best way to present the pricing information in the most helpful way. And transparency is important to us. So we want to do that in a way that's helpful, though. So I think that from the conversations that I've overheard, um, that's always been important to our team, and they're just looking for the best way to do that, and they've been observing the behaviors on the marketplace in order to ensure that we are delivering the best experience possible for those buyers. And part of that is deciding where the fee information is presented in the most helpful way possible.
Right. And I did just really briefly, I know this is not your area of review, but to touch on the layoffs and what, if any, impact they've had on the business, because it feels like There have been more and more frequent technical glitches. Unfortunately, on Monday, you had an outage that lasted 3+ hours on a Monday morning. To what extent have those layoffs affected the technical team's ability to stay on top of issues with the site? It's not been like a Twitter/X total meltdown, but there have been users have brought up problems to me about the cross-listing tool not working, sending offers not working properly. There's just been a lot of little pain points for sellers. To what extent has that affected it, and what's the proposed resolution to kind of get these bugs quashed?
So I think that our team has moved very quickly to address bugs and issues that have come up. We want to absolutely create the best experience possible for both our sellers and buyers. Objectively speaking, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's important um, to look at the numbers before forming an opinion on it. And I'm at this point directionally thinking that we haven't had a tremendous or notable uptick in downtime or issues that have affected the platform. But I need to go circle back and have a look at
Right.
that. I would say though that every large software technology company does come with outages, even the very largest.
Sure.
Part of that is there's a bit of interdependence. Some of them are, I'm sure, with every company. And now I'm speaking very generally, not just Mercari. Uh, and this was the same with the startup that I operated prior to joining Mercari, where our customers were the largest e-commerce platforms in many countries, including the U.S., um, as well as being a partner to Meta and TikTok. So uptime was very important there.
Right.
But one of the as a software technology company, there are interdependencies with cloud providers as well that come up, and sometimes there are bugs that come up internally, and it's just there are a lot of reasons why some services might go down for a little bit. But I can commit to you that our team has absolutely moved very, very quickly to get onto those issues as they came up. And I've observed my colleagues doing just that. As soon as the problem came up, they were able to hop onto it immediately, and
Right.
they were able to start working immediately with full force towards resolution. So I don't think that we've seen any diminished ability to address um, just the regular flow of software technology challenges that come up. That's something that I've observed our team has continued to do at a very high level.
Okay. I want to talk about a little bit here. It's just some use of site kind of things. Here is one that it comes up pretty regularly. This is a comment on the live from Big Dre. I don't like the 10% lower offer I have to send them. Past it prevents me from sending lower offer at first and then stop sending offer once the 10% stacks up and it goes too low. So what he's referring to there is I get 2 or 3 likers. So I send an offer out and I get 2 or 3 more likers. And the next offer I send out, I can't send just my regular 10% off my current price. I've got to send a 10% off that already reduced price. I get probably the notion that, okay, you tried the 10% off the first time and it didn't work, so you should do a little more. But you mentioned a moment ago that you like those things to be in the seller's hands. Is that something that can be addressed by Mercari?
So I think it certainly bears additional review, and I know that folks are talking about it's come up in a few other seller conversations. So I've certainly taken this back to the team to discuss. I don't think it's a quick decision to be making. I think that our team has arrived at an approach that works generally for many of our sellers. Um, so we'll definitely think a little bit more about this one. I will say that offers are a pretty important mechanism. This goes back to the category of seller that has decided to not decrease the prices coming out of the changes. Um, one
Because
of the
I've been a lot more active in sending out offers than I was previous because now I know I've got that cushion. I don't want to like blanket discount my pricing, but I have been much more aggressive about sending offers. And this is a, whether you call it a feature or a bug, this is a problem that I've run into where I've sent offers and now I'm kind of stuck having to discount further than I would like to.
Yeah. So is that partly, part of this might be around like the timing of the offers, but and that really that could become a mechanism for the seller uh, to have more control of the offer discount rate increase.
Right.
So well, I would hope that there is a little bit of kind of collaborative creativity that we can apply here, but certainly it's something that I'll continue to talk about together with my colleagues around the mechanism for the offer rate. I do want to emphasize though that we're seeing sellers come back to us like objective marketplace wide data that signals that offers are an important mechanism that is actually very, very successful.
Oh, yeah.
It works marketplace wide, and anecdotally, in speaking to individual sellers, I've yes, I've heard some discussion around like, hey, the 10% issue, like the declining off, but by and large, I don't think that there has actually really there's not been a single seller that's come back to me and said offers don't work for them. Um, so overall, I think it's a mechanism that's important to our sellers,
Right.
and it's a mechanism that's driving value for buyers, sellers, and the platform overall.
Yeah. And I agree with that. But as you said earlier, I would prefer that I, as the seller, get to make that decision on the pricing. Here's one that Den Decor Depot asks: I'd love to see Mercari partnership with Pirate Ship for international flat rate pricing. Etsy does their own. So a couple things there: an integration with Pirate Ship for those of us who sell on multiple platforms, where it would be quick and easy to just import listings. Is that something that Mercari sees themselves doing, especially as you attract more large and quote unquote professional sellers? And B, to the international point, is there any thought now that you've done the Japan integration of allowing Mercari US sellers to sell internationally?
That's something that I'm hearing come up more and more frequently these days. I can't speak to any plans about enabling international selling from the U.S., but it's certainly a theme that's come up a number of times. For now, I think it's important that we focus on driving domestic U.S. Success for our sellers. I think that there's a lot of room for growth there. I think the opportunity there is one that um, we're investing heavily in through increasing brand awareness and recognition. Through I mentioned the persistent campaign that we're doing in New York City, which is really one of the biggest markets in the U.S. So demand side in terms of disposable income and all of that, I think that that's a market that will serve our sellers nationwide very, very well. Uh, but in addition, we're also working with a number of very compelling creators. And these creators are helping get the word out there. And this is something that's really spinning up in over the course of the next couple of weeks. Our team has been working furiously on this to pull together a compelling slate of creators to get the word out there about Mercari, and we'll see that persist into November as well. So calendar year Q4 is going to be an important period for our sellers and our marketplace and our buyers overall. And then last thing on the driving demand side, which is really important. I'm here in Los Angeles right now. Los Angeles has a thriving thrifting community, and because of some of the unique and very compelling characteristics of Los Angeles, we've opened a physical store here, Mercari on Melrose. Melrose is a street with just a phenomenal thrifting culture around retro gaming, around fashion, and heck, there's even this very large. Quick shout out to the Trading Post, which is a flea market that runs at Fairfax High School every weekend. So for a lot of reasons, we've opened a store here. which really exposes the Mercari brand and the
Mhm.
fantastic inventory that our sellers overall are putting into the marketplace to this category of buyers that are really passionate about thrifting. So we're doing a lot to drive demand for our sellers right now.
Okay. And to the pirate ship point, any idea on that? I'm sure that's not really in your area of expertise again, but or any third party shipping platform. I know you guys have your own, as do all of them, shipping options. But for those of us who sell, for instance, on multiple platforms, it's much easier for me to just do everything on one. And again, to the point of bringing in additional pro sellers, that would be a really big get.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for bring me back to that point. Pirate ship and there are a lot of different third party shipping
Right.
options out there. Um, I think that the most important thing for us to do at this time is continuing to negotiate the best possible deals with the actual shipping providers themselves, the first party shipping providers. We've got some fantastic folks negotiating those deals on an ongoing basis. Shipping is something that sees fluctuations and price changes over time. But our team is always working to find the best possible deals for our sellers and for our buyers, and I think that that's played out generally. Um, I would suggest that professional sellers are tremendously important to our marketplace because of the outsized role that they play in terms of creating supply for our buyers, and we recognize that. And a big part of the reason why I'm here today is because I think it's important for us to have a very accountable, not in the instant flash in the pan accountability, but over time accountability, where we have this dialogue, and over time do we see an improvement through this very open
Right.
line of communication. Um, so I think that those are all things that we can do together with continuing to negotiate the best possible deals with our shipping providers. So unfortunately, I don't have more on
No,
pirate ship in particular.
right, that's fair. To the point of selling, one of the things that came up as I was soliciting questions was, is there any plan to do auctions? More frequently, I got asked about live selling in the kind of whatnot or posh shows model. Are there any plans for Mercari to introduce those as selling options?
Live selling. I talked about this with a few folks in the past, and I've seen it do phenomenally well in Asia, in China, and in Korea. I think that there are pockets of it here in the U.S. market, but I haven't seen it really take off overall. And at this time, we don't have any plans for adding live selling as an option for our buyers, but it's certainly something that we'll continue to keep an eye on. In terms of live, what we're doing here live is, I think, an important opportunity for us to engage with sellers. Uh, on the buyer side, just brainstorming here, it might be interesting to start with maybe doing some live engagement with buyers in general, maybe thematically, not seller specific, but thematically. So live selling around live promotion to buyers to increase demand in categories like fashion, for example, or in books, or I know on TikTok, it was a couple of years ago, the hashtag book talk took off. I actually think it's still a
Right.
thing. Um, Maybe there's something that we can do around there to increase the demand side. So that's how I'm thinking about live right now, and I'd love to hear some ideas from our community of sellers around how we can use live to drive more demand for sellers.
Right. Perfect. Um, uh, you did back in the spring a pretty big seller referral program where you were offering a pretty substantial amount of money for sellers to refer other sellers to the site. Can you speak to whether or not that was successful and whether or not that is something that you'll be trying again?
We're trying a lot of different things to as part of, and it's a reflection of how important we view the inventory to be, because buyers need inventory here in order to really continue going deeper and deeper and deeper in in their areas of, so when they are obsessed on Mercari with comic books, for example, uh, having more and more this ongoing supply of comic books is really, really important for those folks. Uh, so because of that, we certainly do view it to be important to try different promotions. I can't speak to the exact performance of that particular campaign, but I will say that we'll continue working on different ways to uh, engage more deeply with sellers. I personally view this right here, Ryan, the conversation we're having on an ongoing basis to be one of the most important things that we can do to drive more seller engagement and greater listings. Because sellers need to know that what they're saying is at least being processed. We're thinking about it. We're talking about it. We're talking about it here, and we're talking about it offline in Mercari as well. And their voices aren't just of going out into an echo chamber.
Right. So I know we're bumping up against your time limit here. What kind of closing thoughts would you have for us? Just give us a little bit of an idea of uh, short and medium term, what your hopes are for Mercari and building that trust and that relationship. You mentioned the kind of the three-legged stool of buyers, sellers, and the platform. How do you propose continuing to further integrate that?
I think that one word, integrate, is so important. A lot of things need to happen at the same time, and I'd like us to work together in partnership or collaboratively with a shared plan for how to succeed as sellers, as Mercari the marketplace, and as buyers. Uh, and that's going to require some open communication, as I'm doing right now, as we're doing right now, talking about some of the demand side initiatives to increase awareness of Mercari and get Mercari, the marketplace, in front of more and more buyers. That's happening right now, and it's going to continue happening through October and November and beyond. Um, Through that entire marketing funnel, from above the line investments to middle of funnel investments to the with influencers and content to our performance marketing, all of that continues to happen. And there will be different ratios of it throughout the year, so different blend, but it's happening right now. And so I will emphasize that now is a really exciting time for sellers to tap in to Mercari's investments on the demand side, uh, because we as sellers, I'm beginning to sell as well, or I'm nowhere as far along the journey as you are, Ryan. Uh,
You
but
don't
as
have
sellers,
9,500 listings on Mercari?
wow, no, I think I'm going to be bumping up to 100 very soon. But geez, as sellers, we want transaction volume, and part of
Right.
that is buyer demand, and I'm excited to share that we're investing there with some grassroots activities as well as some bigger awareness plays, and that's something that serves sellers well. For those sellers who choose to increase their listings, who choose to engage maybe more frequently with offers, or who choose to adjust their pricing, or who choose to just engage in conversation with buyers. I will ask, or not, I'll suggest to our sellers that for those who do have the means to, and the time for it to invest, that extra message goes a really long way. That note to suggest, hey, I also sell these other items. If you add a few extra items to cart, you buy 2 or 3 books. Shipping costs,
Right.
the bundles have really important role to play in that total cost to buyer. So a lot of things that can happen, but it starts with listing and listing more. The quality of listings matter a ton, as you as professional sellers know. But I would suggest that if there is an opportunity to send that extra message, that'll make a really big difference.
Right. I do have one more here to the point you were just making. Dendicor Depot-esque. Need to know how to get my listing number increased on Mercari. Had a really bad eBay customer service experience today, and I need my 3,800 items cross-posted ASAP. There is. I've heard this from several new sellers where there's a cap that they just don't seem to be able to get beyond or easily get beyond. you want to attract more of these big sellers. Here's someone with 3,800 listings that can't at the moment get them over there. What can you tell him?
I think that the experience at Mercari, part of it is going to be around making sure that we are fully verified as sellers, and I imagine many sellers already know this and are doing that, and fantastic. I think another part of it is getting reviewed and having a couple of transactions under your belt. I think that matters a lot as well. And one, I guess, lesser known, or it might not be entirely intuitive, but having a rating, a review as a buyer is impactful as a seller. It increases your ability to have sales because you become a trusted member, a more trust. It sends a trust signal to the marketplace
Mm-hmm.
that you have a review rating. So I would suggest we have a fantastic new registrant, new registration credit coupon that goes out, $5 on your first as a new registered user. So you could use that to make your first purchase. But getting that first purchase makes a really big difference in your ability to sell frequently and quickly on the Mercari platform. So I'd strongly recommend quality listings, the um, getting your account checked, um, and getting reviewed. I think those are the three big things that I would recommend. Um, and we want you to be able to list as many as possible as quickly as possible.
Right. And I've got one more here. It'll be a quick one, then I'll let you go. To the point you were just talking about sending those extra messages, the question is, do you have a mechanism to do this that's automated? Or if you don't, could you add something like that where you could just quickly go in and bang, send out a pre-made message to a potential buyer?
Uh, I think that so that'd be an interesting one for me to take back to the team. So I appreciate the suggestion. Um, for now, though, one of the very and this is one of the reasons why I love chatting with sellers. One of the very helpful techniques to get that done very quickly. Uh, iOS has a shortcuts feature, so you
Right.
can create this shortcut with just a couple of like maybe three letters you type, and then boom, it changes it automatically into this full message. So that might be one mechanism to streamline the process. But in the meantime, I'll certainly also take that feedback back to the team. So thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
I
Perfect.
love
Well,
how engaged your audience is.
they are very engaged. I appreciate it. And to that point, I want to thank everybody who came out today to watch this. I know we didn't get to all of your questions in the chat. I had a bunch of my own already to go over. So, and we were trying to be on a 45-minute time limit, and we're a little over that. So, David, I absolutely appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us and taking our questions. Hopefully we can do this again, maybe once a quarter or every 6 months or something. Just get together and kind of recap where Mercari is and where Mercari is going and what the feedback is from users, both buyers and sellers. If you have anything else you'd like to close with, I would appreciate it.
I am absolutely excited to come back again if you'll have me, Ryan. I'll also suggest that if you do have like you've got my number, you've got my email address, Ryan. Please feel free to shoot me a note if there are any pressing questions you have. I'd be happy to keep that line of communication open, and hopefully that'll lead to uh, us being able to share information in between as well. So between now and the next time we speak. Maybe there'll be an opportunity for us to address some of the questions that we weren't able to get to today.
Perfect. Again, thank you to everyone who came out. Big thank you to David. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.